Hey everyone, Nathan Holiday here, and welcome to a special solo edition of the Gym Mastery Podcast. This is part 2 of the COPE Productivity Challenge. You can check out episode 48 for the quick overview of the system. Now, at a very high level, building a COPE system will help you get better results faster, more efficiently, and with less stress. But it does take some time to get into place, and ultimately, it helps you build more trust with yourself and others. It works as a second brain, remembering things for you, so you can relax and be creative with your main brain. Now, today, we are going to talk about the first discipline of our system, the capture habit. That's the C. Capture is the C in COPE. So as we hop in, the first thing to remember is that trust is necessary for any solid relationship, including the relationship with your brain. And the problem is your brain will convince you that it will remember every little thing that happens to come up in life, but it won't. And a little while later, right, we move on to something else and we don't even realize that we've forgotten the thing. And a week later, if that lost idea or task was important, we may have to spend an hour or a few hours or a day battling a fire. And this is a huge waste of time. There's a saying that I love that the biggest time suck is doing a bunch of work to make up for a bad decision. So your brain is this magnificent machine, but it has weaknesses. You've gone to the store, I'm sure, to get something and then returned later on with everything except the thing you went for, or you've gone into a room and you can't really remember why you went in there, or you've got an important task to remember and you tell yourself that you're going to get to it later, but you don't write it down and then it evaporates. Our brains are excellent at some things and then very unreliable at others. And high on the list of things it's not good at is giving us the right information at the right time when we want it to be in front of us. Right? The human brain is simply bad at remembering these little things that accumulate throughout the day. This is why the capture habit is foundational. It's a simple habit to capture anything you want to remember. You capture it so you can confidently defer it or delay it, moving it out of your current attention in this moment and making it available for whenever you decide to engage with it, and then put some thinking into it. When a good idea comes into your brain, or when someone asks you for something, or when you remember something you need to do, or when you have important insights, you write them down and you store it in a single place. The same way every time. Everything goes in this one place. If it's nagging at your brain and you find yourself re-remembering the same thing, you got to dump it out into your capture. And a crucial key, something I've learned over time, is to make it as easy as possible to capture something. You don't want friction in this process. Your capture tool should be on you at all times, and it should take you less than 3 seconds to go from wanting or having the idea to capture something to actually capturing it. And I personally use an Apple Watch, which is synced to some software, but you could use your phone, you could use pen and paper. I've done both of those. It doesn't really matter. But this habit is among the most powerful strategies you can employ to keep a clear head on a consistent basis. And hear me on that, because if you have things bumping around in your brain all the time, you need to capture them to get them out of your head so you can focus on important things. But to actually relax, your mind needs to trust your system. It needs to know that whatever you capture is going to be revisited. And it's the consistency of this is so important because it builds and ensures trust. And it does take time, like I mentioned earlier. But this is where discipline number 2, organize, comes into play. And we'll talk about that next time. But most people have experienced writing lists, but then not looking at them. And then losing trust in the list. And then that person stops writing lists. But the problem isn't lists, because that's kind of how we have to deal with this stuff. It's that we have so many of them in different places and you can't remember what is where, and things grow dusty and neglected over time. So this capture list, you want it to be one location and you want to stick with it indefinitely. Don't go hopping around to a bunch of different things. Make a choice and stick with it. Some apps you could review to check it out. Things 3 is a great one. Todoist, AnyDo, OmniFocus. There's a bunch of task managers out there, but you can also just go analog style and write it down. All this that I've been talking about is the what and the how and the why of the capture habit. But to really get started, when you begin building your system, you can opt to do what's called a global capture. And this is a big life capture where you get everything out of your brain that's on your mind, like literally everything. And how do you do this? Well, you sit down and then you write down everything that's been on your mind, big, small, all of it. You dump it all out. And you might have a list of 100 things, right? You can then chunk those things. You might have way more than that. I know a lot of people, when they do that initial dump, it's huge. But you want to chunk those things into big life categories, right? So family, work, home, finances. So imagine that you have dumped out 100 things. 20 might fit into the general area of family and home actions. Another 20 might clump into general business stuff, right? You get the point. These, you can chunk them. You can dump everything out and then chunk things and put those as buckets or life areas. These then become the building blocks of the organized habit, which we'll cover in the next session. But some of you may already have life areas defined, right? So you might already have this and you know you have the sections of your life. You can easily reverse the order and you could go into each primary area of your life and then dump things out of your head based on that area. So you could go to your family and then you could just brain dump all the things that are on your mind with your family. And then if something else pops up, you can go to but you're just creating multiple lists. Now, these are optional steps. You don't need to go through that whole process. But if you get nothing else from this series, literally, simply capturing things on your mind consistently could change your life. And we've actually had that exact feedback from a number of people who participated in a recent challenge we did, this productivity challenge. And it was a huge aha for them to realize they didn't have to hold everything in their head. They can get it out of paper. It was a massive aha for me too. It's why I'm kind of like obsessed about this stuff, because it really does make a big difference. And I know I've spent a bunch of time on this, but building a system is not easy. And people fall off, they start again, they quit, they resolve, they resume. I've worked with a bunch of people and it's tough. Like, it's really hard, but all of that's okay. It's all part of the process. And steadily, if you do continue, you'll be amazed at what the system can do for you. You'll feel free, calm, knowing that anytime something comes into your head, you're going to deal with it at the appropriate time with competence and professionalism. You don't need to worry about it right now. Things will stop falling through the cracks and you'll seem to have it all together almost magically. Your competency, reliability, integrity all improve because you have a system. And getting traction on your life in this way, or your business, starts with a decision, as we all know, and then it's all about follow through and action. So decide to build the capture habit today because the rewards are great. And in my next installment, like I mentioned, I'm going to go over discipline number 2, organize, take a dive into that. So keep your eyes open, and thanks for listening.